Is it time for NXT to stand and deliver? Because if you look at them, we're having more frequent that we've got the called up talent going down to NXT, winning championships, parading championships around, when in the past, to get called up, you had to drop the title. Talking and examples, Solo Sikoa had to drop the title to go to the main roster.
You know another one? Let's talk about the recent draft, for example. Because I knew you was about to go, but I just thought about this. And this was extremely confusing. You had the draft.
Yes.
We had Indy Hartwell, who was the women's champion.
Yep.
Get called up.
Yeah.
You had Ala Dunn, Alba Fire,
Yep.
who were the tag team champions.
Yes.
Get called up.
Yeah.
Now, Indy, granted, she was hurt. She still dropped the title.
Fair.
The NXT tag team champions, they take the titles with them.
You took them with them, and then you did away with them.
And then you unified them with the main roster tag team championships, women's tag team championships. And we haven't even seen the women's tag team champions on NXT, which was the whole reason why they even created their own women's tag team titles. Because initially, when those tag team titles were created for the women's division, they were set to be defended against Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. Sasha and Bayley never ever went down to NXT, or I think they may have went once or twice.
Yeah.
Other than that, no team that won those championships afterwards that I can remember went down to NXT.
So I guess we have to ask the question: Is NXT a third brand, or are they still just developmental?
At this rate, I think we should really just go ahead and consider them a third brand.
I have to disagree. I don't want them to be a third brand. The reason why I don't want them to be a third brand is because, yes, they do have some star power, but I feel like they're not strong enough to stand on their own and give us the match quality. Don't look like that. They're not strong enough to stand alone and give us the match quality with our main roster. Because don't do that. I understand what you're saying. Yes, you have some people that can give you main roster
I
quality.
see why Skip used to cut off Shannon.
I know that they. It's not your turn.
Is it my turn?
It's not your turn yet.
Is it my turn?
I'll let you know when it's your turn. Yes, they can put on great matches. But the problem that I feel like you run into is that some of those guys are still a bit too green to do that consistently. Because if you take a look at it, majority of those premium live events for NXT, you'll have a couple bangers. But can you do that every week in, week out? Because as you know, sometimes NXT will lay an egg on Tuesday night and you'll be like, what was that? So I feel like if we keep them as developmental, we continue to do what NXT was made for. Essentially, every big brand, every big entity, they have a developmental league. If you look at NBA, they have the G League. If you look at NFL, they have college.
Okay.
They have other professional football leagues as well, like the AFL, the CFL. If you look at baseball, even baseball has single A, triple A, and double A. That was out of order. Nonetheless,
I'm not a baseball fan, so I don't know none of those anyway.
Okay, so what they have is, depending on your ability and skill, is what tier they put you at. Whether they put you at single A, double A, or triple A, then you get called up to the majors. Okay. So I feel like you have to have some type of system and pool that you can pull from to make them better, as well as while you're making them better and they're growing on the people. You as an NXT fan back in the day, you would say, hey, you gotta watch NXT. You gotta watch NXT because you're missing the growth of these characters. So when they come to the main roster, you don't know who they are. Or when they come to the main roster and they don't get put into the spotlight immediately, or they have a bunch of matches that are mediocre, you'll say, nah, man, you gotta go back and watch this. You gotta go back and watch this. So I feel like we have to keep them in, not necessarily keep them in the box, but keep them in their own separate developmental league. So that way they grow, they shine together. And then what that also does is it gives them the ability to storytell. Because if somebody has a feud in NXT, and when they both make it to the main roster, the ability to go back and talk about that history, because that's what WWE likes to do. They do love going back and telling a good story.
Storytelling.
Shout out to Triple H. But yeah, I think it should be developmental. Your thoughts?
Okay, so glad you said all that. You made some points that I'm gonna agree with, some I'm not gonna agree with. So I'm gonna open up with a question before I get into my answer. Right? Is Ring of Honor AEW's developmental brand? Or is Ring of Honor its own brand owned by AEW?
That's different.
Oh my God.
That's different.
No, it's not.
Is it my turn?
No, it's not your turn.
Okay. Go ahead.
So, here's why, okay? NXT, yes, I did used to tell you that you had to watch it for to understand the backstory and all the other good stuff. Not to mention, one of the best matches I've ever seen in NXT was probably definitely Shinsuke versus Sami Zayn. If you have not watched Shinsuke versus Sami Zayn in NXT, do yourself a favor. Just go watch it. Now, that's what I used to say, and I will still stand by that, okay? I stand by it, I guarantee it. I put my name on it. It then switched.
Okay.
It switched when I began to see, you said Stand and Deliver.
Yeah.
That was when they first started the NXT Premium Live events.
Yes.
Stand and Delivers. Them boys would go on Saturday nights before main shows like Royal Rumble, before WrestleMania, before SummerSlam, before Survivor Series. That was when they would have their pay-per-views. And they would go out there and they would tear the house down. Now, overall, under the guidance of Triple H, I absolutely feel that NXT, the independent guidance of Triple H, I feel that they should be their own third brand. The reason why you're saying what you're saying now about NXT is because after Vince took it away from him and watered it down with NXT 2.0, and he decided to put that edict in place that we're not going to hire a lot of older quote-unquote talent from the independent scenes. We want fresh young guys that know experience.
Yeah.
That's when NXT got messed up. But when NXT was bringing in those guys from the independents that had experience or from brands like TNA or whatever, they was coming out with bangers.
So
storyline was great.
So black and gold more so.
Yes, the mindset and everything of the black and gold era should have made NXT a third brand. And this is what really confused me. Is because you treat NXT as a developmental brand, but then you wanted to put a developmental brand or developmental show against a show that actually had its main show, and that was Dynamite on the Wednesday Night Wars.
Yeah.
And then you get mad when NXT underperforms in the ratings. Look what they were up against. They were against something that was smack brand new that wrestling fans hadn't had in over 20 something years. Like, you had a bunch of guys, and at that time it was half and half. You have half season guys, you still had half the guys that was coming in that was still learning the system and everything else. They were going against, at the time, what was arguably hot. And my problem with AEW in this emphasis was they had too many main guys for them to be that sloppy as they were on TV when they first started.
Right.
So that's a whole little thing in and of itself. But if we were to ever go back to the full black and gold way of life, then yes, make NXT its own third brand. Because like you said, you got guys that are getting called up with the championships. You got nonsensical stuff. If NXT is a developmental brand, then why is Dominic Mysterio walking around on the main roster with the NXT championship?